I'm out, I run back to the cabin, with whoever is throwing rocks and shit crashing through the brush parallel to the trail, still throwing stuff. Roscoe finally has enough and charges off into the woods, snarling. There's an ear-splitting scream and my dog snarling and barking like he's fighting something. I start to follow Roscoe, chambering another round in my rifle, but then another rock flies through the air and hits me in the head. Back to the cabin and lock myself inside. Roscoe shows up a few minutes later, covered in mud, blood, and leaves. I check my phone and of course there's no signal. Top off the magazine of my rifle and consider driving into town to call the sheriff. Nah, fuck that. Whatever asshole was throwing rocks should be more scared of me than vice versa. After all, I have a gun and Roscoe clearly got in a fight with whoever it was. I clean the dog up and put some antibiotic on his wounds, then check mine. I've got a nasty bruise on my forehead and a small cut. Clean it up and slap a band-aid on. I'm in siege mode, just in case the asshole returns. Run the generator so I've got lights. Keep checking out the windows while I cook dinner. The motion-triggered lights go off a few times, but I never see anything. Eventually decide the trespasser had enough and isn't going to come back, shut off the Jenny and head to bed. Gun's still ready to go, of course. Wake up the next morning, grab my rifle and Roscoe, and go to check the property for any signs of the trespasser. Woods are eerily quiet. Roscoe is acting nervous again. I'm thoroughly creeped out and decide to spend the entire day holed up in the cabin. Don't see or hear anything unusual whenever I check outside, but it's still eerily quiet, no birds, no animals moving, nothing. I spend the entire day alternating between reading and nervously looking out the windows. Nightfall. I refuel the generator and start it before it gets too dark outside, then head into the kitchen and start cooking a pot of canned beef stew. Motion-triggered lights keep going off, but I don't see anything. Roscoe is whining and acting nervous again. I keep the .38 holstered on my hip and the rifle next to my chair in the living room. After checking the front windows again, I walk back into the kitchen just in time to see something looking through the window at me. I can't tell what it is, I just see eyes and a dark silhouette. I shout and draw the revolver, pointing it at the window, and whatever it is vanishes. Running up to the window, I look outside as the motion lights go off and see a large shadow disappear into the trees. The window is high off the ground, walking out the back/kitchen door requires going down a short flight of steps. I'm 6 feet tall and wouldn't be able to look into the kitchen window from outside, so whatever was peering in the window was fucking huge. I'm convinced it's a bear. I holster my gun again. Stir the stew on the stovetop and turn down the heat so it doesn't burn, then retrieve the rifle and step out the kitchen door to see if I can see/hear anything. The lights flicker and the generator sputters, coughs, then dies. I'm left in the dark. Shit, head back into the cabin, bark my shit on the coffee table, and lay my rifle in the chair. Roscoe is whining. I grab an old army anglehead flashlight from by the front door and step onto the porch. The generator is in an enclosure to the left of the door. I open it up, double check the fuel tank, don't see anything obviously wrong, and start the generator up again. Lights come back on. There's the sound of shattering glass and I run back into the kitchen just in time to see a long, hairy arm reaching through the broken window and grabbing my pot of stew on the stove. I whip out the .38 and empty it at the window. There's an ear-splitting screech and the pot of stew is dropped, making a mess all over the stovetop and kitchen floor. I run to the window in time to see a huge figure vanish into the trees again. Grab rifle from my chair, then run upstairs to the bedroom, eject empty cases from my revolver and reload from the box of ammo on the nightstand. Check out bedroom window, motion lights are on, but I don't see anything. Head back downstairs and go out the kitchen door. Roscoe is shaking and refuses to follow me. I stand at the very edge of where the motion lights illuminate the tree line, shining my light into the woods and shouting threats. Something rustles in the brush and I catch a glimpse of motion in the beam of my flashlight. Shouldering my rifle, I start to squeeze the trigger when the lights go out. Wait, the lights didn't go out, I can still see the yard lit up. I turn and there's something huge between me and the lights, creating the dark spot. I somehow avoid tactically shitting myself and fire my rifle at the silhouette. There's a scream and something shaped like a person runs into the woods. I chamber a new round and fire again. A rock comes sailing out of the woods in the direction of where I saw motion. There's fucking 2 of them. I fire a third shot in the direction of the rock thrower, then draw my revolver and empty it into the woods. There's another loud road and something huge crashing in the brush as another rock sails toward me. I hear more crashing off to the side where the one that got between me and the cabin ran. Fuck this, I'm not getting surrounded. I haul ass into the cabin, double check all the doors and windows are locked, reload both guns, and cover the broken kitchen window with a piece of plywood and hammer it into the wall with some nails. There's a constant thumping sound as at least two of the creatures are hurling rocks and sticks at the walls of the cabin. I retreat upstairs with Roscoe, open the bedroom windows, and fire multiple shots into the woods around the cabin. The rain of rocks and sticks stops. After a while, the motion lights stop going off. I hear a weird noise coming from the woods, like a cross between animal grunts and somebody singing without words. Fire another shot into the woods and the noise stops. I stay up all night, too afraid to sleep. Generator runs out of gas around 3 AM and the cabin switches to battery power. Batteries still aren't charging properly, so the lights go out less than an hour later. Dead silence outside. Dawn finally arrives and I jump in the Bronco with Roscoe and haul ass into town. As soon as I reach the gas station on the edge of the small town near the cabin, I pull out my phone and call my dad to tell him what happened. He tells me to stay put and that he's on his way. It's a 5-hour drive, so I've got a bit of a wait. I just sit in the Bronco with Roscoe the entire time, dozing but too high-strung to actually fall asleep. Dad finally pulls into the parking lot next to me, has me tell him the whole story, then he calls the sheriff. A deputy shows up and I tell him the whole story. Deputy is obviously skeptical but follows us to the cabin. Show him the rocks and sticks all around the cabin and the scuff marks on the wall where they hit, the broken window and spilled stew, etc. Deputy also notes all the spent brass where I'd been shooting and decides that something obviously happened and I wasn't just making it up. We all three hunt around for footprints or other evidence, we find a few, but they're never clear enough to make out. Deputy writes it all down in his notebook and says 3 other people reported similar incidents in the past month, then leaves. Dad helps me clean up the mess in the kitchen, refuel the generator, and fixes the inverter so the solar cells charge the batteries properly. Then I throw all my shit into the Bronco, because fuck until hunting season in the following winter, and only with my dad and uncle with me. Never see or hear anything unusual again. That's the end of my Bigfoot story. Now for my dad's story, which is why he immediately believed me when I told him what happened. Late 1970s. My dad, uncle, and grandpa are hunting at the cabin. They're all in separate deer blinds. Dad isn't legally old enough to drink, but he has a small cooler full of beer in the tree blind with him anyway. Rifle is hanging from its sling on a tree branch. He has no serious intention of shooting a deer and is mostly there to drink. Something big starts rustling in the brush and he sits up, thinking it might be a pig since deer aren't that noisy. Fucking Bigfoot steps out into the clearing. He says he remembers it had reddish tan hair all over, but looked more like a man than an ape. It looks around the clearing casually, then spots him sitting in the tree and stares at him. He says he wasn't scared of it because it didn't seem threatening, just curious, so he stared back and wished he had a camera with him so he could prove it was real. It walks over to the tree he's in and reaches up. He's 10 feet off the ground and its fingertips are brushing the bottom of his blind. Suddenly, he's nervous about this huge thing and shouts at it to go away. It jumps up and grabs onto the deer blind, its weight making the whole blind creak, and my dad is afraid it's going to break off of the tree and take him with it. He pours his beer onto Bigfoot's head. It lets go and wipes its head, licking the beer on its hands and looking puzzled. My dad grabs a full can of beer from the ice chest and beans him over the head with it to make it go away. Suddenly, Bigfoot isn't amused anymore and roars so loud his ears hurt, and begins jumping up and grabbing at the tree blind. Dad fumbles to grab the rifle and fires, completely missing the creature. This is enough to scare it off though, and it runs into the woods. Uncle and Grandpa show up, wondering what's going on. Dad yells for them to grab their shit and GTFO. Leaves the rest of the beer in the blind and they all head back to the cabin, where he tells them what happened. If they hadn't heard the roar before the gunshot, they wouldn't have believed him. They go back to the tree blind to look for evidence, find that the blind has ripped off the tree and the cooler broken apart. Smashed beer cans oozing beer everywhere. They pack up the truck and nope back home. Never see any signs of the thing again until 30 years later when I have my encounter. So, anybody got their own stories to tell? Forgot to add a detail. Dad says when it reached up to touch the deer blind, it was singing, making weird chirping noises like someone imitating a bird call.
You've either studied a subject in depth and crafted a very good story using reliable information, or it actually happened. Here's mine. Colorado springtime. Drinking a tall boy and hiking up a mountain at dusk. Mountain is surrounded by suburbs, but still at the edge of the Greater Rockies. Lots of mule deer up here, coyotes, mountain lions, even elk. Get to top of plateau, walk quarter of mile to nearest high tension tower. Drunk, feeling tough, decide to stand on cement pylon and piss on it. Sun is now down. Feel a bit exposed, and think if predators are around I'm offering a challenge. Don't care. Have my 4000 lumen flashlight and BK9. Get off the pylon and start walking back. Flash blizzard. Within 2 minutes it's a whiteout. No big deal. Know the trail well. Flip on my light to 2K lumen mode. Can't see shit further than 5 feet. Walking between 2 cliff walls. Suddenly great horned owl hoots to my right. That's weird, bad weather and no perches over there. Keep walking. Owl hoots on my left. No perches over there either. Now on my right again. Now on my left. Oh fuck no. JPG. I'm being corralled towards the big wide trail. Flip off my light and sneak a detour to the narrow cliff face trail. Harder terrain in the snow, but nothing can sneak up on me. 2 more hoots from left and right. They stop and I quietly take the long, difficult way home where I might slip and get fucked up, but can't be ambushed. Later, that summer I took this pic on one of the trails leading to that location. It's extremely unlikely a barefoot human being would have made this print in this spot. This foot would be a size 11. There were no other prints that anywhere near that size on the trail. All the terrain around the trail is full of sharp volcanic rock and cactus. You can't walk barefoot on this trail, much less off it.
Solo camping in northeast Iowa near Mississippi, an area with Bigfoot sightings. Eat mushrooms. Hike the top of ridge to watch sunset. Excellent. Realize it's getting dark, so I should get back to start a campfire to keep me warm and also to stare at / be entranced by. Descend from limestone bluff and at the bottom, all the hairs on my arm and neck go up and my fight / flight response goes off in an incredibly intense way. I am being hunted. I figure it's probably a mountain lion because there are lots of those in the area. I begin to move through tall grass back to the trail. Hear something huge moving behind me, slow, long steps. Swoosh 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 through the grass. Fuck this. Run back the whole way to my campsite feeling like I'm getting chased. No way, that was a mountain lion, it was huge. Now it's dark, I make a fire and start to relax. I'm camped by a small lake maybe 50 feet across. I hear footsteps through the leaves on the other side of the lake. A huge rock is thrown in the lake. A piercing, inhuman shriek sounding like a rabbit getting killed, but worse. I'm tripping balls so can't drive. Am I about to get raped by a monkey man? I remember that Native Americans and Tibetans said that only whiskey will placate the Squatch. I pour a tin cup full of cheap brandy and set it out on the trail about 100 feet from my campsite. Rest of the night is calm, but I'm still a little shaken up. In the morning the cup is empty, tipped over, there was no wind that night. So? Maybe I had a Bigfoot encounter. Maybe I was just tripping. Either way, also there are lots of reports from that area of Bigfoot being sighted crossing gravel roads or walking near fence lines / property lines by old farmers who are not the type to go telling stories.
I'm gonna say this was a hobo, but hey, what do I know? Freaked me the fuck out at the time. B19, live in small logging town Pacific Northwest. Tied with 2 other